Well, wait, hold on. Wait a minute. Wait, is there another teacher here? Is there someone? Is there a new adult?
There's another adult. There's definitely another adult. We'll have to find out if he's a teacher.
Wait, what? Who's this?
What's going on, y'all? How we doing?
You still go by Wal?
Oh yeah, I still go by Wal. I got a new nickname, Walito now.
Walito?
Walito.
Oh, Walito. Okay.
Yeah, so everybody call me Walito now. So.
Okay. Well, is it because I heard you're cooking? Are you cooking Mexican food, or how'd you get Walito?
I don't know. One of my big brothers in my fraternity just ended up giving me that name, so it just stuck.
Okay, and I mean, do you have a big brother that's actually bigger than you?
Like taller wise, there's probably like 3 of them, but for the most part, pretty tallest one.
Well, it is so good to see you, man.
Likewise, it's been years. It's been years for sure.
Yeah, years.
Yeah, I think it was since class of 2015 graduate when I came by for graduation. I think it's the last time I saw you.
Say that again?
I think it must have been since the class of 2015 graduated, since I've been at Forest and ended up seeing y'all.
Man, well, it is great to see you. It is great to have the opportunity to interview you. And thank you for making time for us.
Well, absolutely. Couldn't pass by the opportunity.
Well, you are a perfect kickoff to our summer 2021. I've said before, this is going to be the best summer ever since we've been quarantined for about a year. And many people have saved money to blow this summer, or found how they can save money and use money differently. So you're a great person to kick off the summer of whatever we want to call it. Summer of freedom, summer of get back to normalness, summer of normalcy.
Absolutely. It's great. Thank y'all for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Wal, I have known you, I mean, you're always the biggest, like the tallest kid. So I think I probably recognized you since you were a 6th grader.
Right.
But I've known you definitely since 8th grade.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about your family story of coming to the US from Sudan?
Oh, absolutely. So my parents immigrated here to the United States in 1994. They fled civil war in South Sudan. So from there, they went to Ethiopia, and then from there, they went to Kenya. And then they were able to get asylum through whoever was running I think it's Clinton at the time. And so they were able to get asylum and came to DC, then to the Midwest, went to Atlanta, and then ended up in San Diego. So by 96, that's when I was born in January. And then we've been living here ever since.
And when they first came to San Diego, did they go to City Heights or where?
Yeah, we were in City Heights. We were off 52nd and Trojan, right by University. So we've always been in City Heights, in the City Heights area.
One of the most diverse neighborhoods on the planet.
Oh, absolutely. The most diverse in the city. Every time I come back, it's feel like home.
Okay, so you say when you come back, so where are you now?
Right now, I'm still in Chico, but I currently live in Miguel, which is about 40 minutes northeast from here. I'm working at the California Conservation Corps, so I'm about 6 minutes from base. So that's where I'm at now.
Okay, we're gonna get to that more later. Can you tell us a little bit more about your time? So, what was your time like in middle school, high school? What do you remember about that?
Oh, middle school and high school. I think those were some wild times, especially middle school. I think from middle school, 6th grade, until I finally got my act together around 10th grade. It was definitely wild times. I remember it was just great just being around the same people all day, every day. The support system was great, even though at that time, especially my middle school years, I was in my rebellious stage. So, I'm always in the office here and there. But as time went by, you know, you hit your maturity level and stuff like that. You start to see things in a different perspective. And I think that's when I started having your class 8th grade and then Mr. Ramos as well. I think that's when things kind of flipped, it switched in my mind, where, you know, I was like, I got to buckle down and, you know, start thinking about the future. And that's when I let all the being the class clown and just, you know, just being dumb, let that go and just started, you know, getting focused. But it was a great time. Middle school was great at Preuss. High school, although the times where we're getting there at 9 o'clock and then getting off at 4 and then getting home at 5 was weird. But I mean, at the end of the day, it ended up making sense. So it was a great time overall.
Well, I remember you in 8th grade. I remember seeing your progression because it's not that, I mean, you were never a clown. Okay. I mean, you're funny, but you weren't, you know what I mean? And there's a difference between the two. There's those that can add humor for all of us to enjoy. And then there's those that want to be the focal point and take it for learning. Right. And so, you know, having that wisdom to know to choose your places of your choice and to have fun with everybody rather than it being a conflict is what makes teachers respect you. And it also shows a level of intelligence. And I think you've always had that. You've always had that. And you've also had the ability to, you've been okay with laughing at yourself a little bit. Yeah. I remember, you know what I
know where you go with this.
Shelby and others would be sad if I did not mention that time you were, you know, leaning against a computer desk, and then then the desk broke and all the computers fell down.
Right. Yeah. Oh, no. It was bad. I think we were in history class. I think it was right before lunch. But the thing, in my defense, the table was already broken.
Yeah, I think it was definitely already broken. And I mean, I'm sure I weighed more than you at the time, and I'm sure I, you know, leaned against it just as you did. But you were the biggest.
Yeah, I was a catalyst. Yeah.
And so it was like Wal broke the desk with his butt.
It was wild. It was a great time.
Remember. And the cool thing about you is you took it in stride. I mean, I wasn't mad because I knew it wasn't your fault. And so you took it in stride like, you know.
Hey, it happens.
Exactly. And then you went on to and you were always a positive contributor in class. And then you went on to high school.
Right.
Mr. Ramos, do you remember any experiences with Wal?
You know, I remember the class as a whole in AP Euro, because nobody was ever happy to be in my class, and so and I remember the general feel of that class was like people were not happy being there, and I just remember just like constantly just like, you guys got to get on board, and you know, I remember Wal and a couple others were some of the ones that were just a little more pleasant to be around. Like, I liked you guys. And I just, you know, I saw so much potential across the board. I just wanted everyone to just kind of like turn it on right away. So when you said it started happening around 10th grade, I'm like, yeah, I think I remember seeing that. And I was just kind of like slamming my head against the wall, like wanting to see those lights turn on a little bit earlier. But I, you know, I always saw the personality there, and I always liked you guys, and, you know, and I knew you do well. So like, you know, I don't have like specific memories, but what comes to my mind the most is staying in touch with you since Preuss, and then seeing that maturity that you've developed, which is, you know, exactly what I always saw in you. So yeah, that's what comes to mind first.
Appreciate it.
And so when you left, you went on to Chico.
Correct.
And why did you go to Chico?
Well, initially I was going to go to a Christian school in Chicago. So I ended up going out there, I think it was in May, right before graduation, I think. So I went out there to visit the school. But of course, the ACT, I already knew at that point, I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna fly. And so they're like, if you can't get a certain score, you're gonna have to pull out more loans. So I was like, we're not doing it. But it was a great campus. It was really small. But I think just some of the rules they had in place just didn't fit my personality at the time. So I knew Chico had a program with the students at Proyce, where a lot of people went for the Mesa program. So I realized that, there's at least people that I would know if I went there. And so I think within my class, there was about 10 people that went to Chico, I believe. So I was like, let's go to Chico. And they have great financial aid at the time too. So I was like, you know what, let's just go there. It kind of screwed up with the EOP program because it was just of the timing of things. But ended up figuring it out. So it was great.
So it sounds like you brought community with you.
Correct. In a sense, it was, of course, I had my folks from my grade, of course, but they're all in the dorms. I didn't dorm at all. I had to find an apartment within that summer because of the EOP. They're all in the EOP program. So they were able to get deferments on payments for that summer to get into the dorms. So I had to try to find a house within like 3-4 weeks of school. And I ended up finding it. So I was living in an apartment since freshman year. Didn't experience dorm life or anything like that. And I'll catch some here and there when we go out to town and whatnot. But for the most part, I was at the apartment, go to class, going right back. So
Did you cook up anything good while you were at the apartment?
Not until my sophomore year. Yeah, my freshman year was pretty tragic. I just didn't feel comfortable at Chico, especially living in an apartment. I don't know nobody there. I'm in a whole new environment. I never visited Chico, and it was a culture shock too. So I'm like, yeah, this is not it at all. But luckily, I ended up meeting a guy by the name of Anton. He worked at the Chico State Athletics Department in the equipment room, and he always saw me on my walk to school, and he ended up pulling me to the side one day and was like, just coming with me to my office. At first, it's weird, coming from the inner city, somebody telling me to come follow you somewhere. But ended up going, and he showed me a tour of the athletics room. I met all the student athletes. And then I ended up getting an internship there towards the end of the fall semester, my first year, and it ended up being employed my second semester. So that helped with my transition.
That's a great transition. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, first semester fall is that's tough for a lot of people. I mean, I remember like culture shock. So yeah, the fact that you fell into something a little bit more comfortable by second semester that's really good.
Definitely. So it helped a lot. It helped because I was ready to transfer. I was ready to, I'm gonna go back to San Diego, try to figure something out. But stuck it through, and luckily I did. So it was great.
So what made sophomore year better?
Sophomore year, it was a lot. I was working, so I started to know a lot of the student athletes as well. And most of them were probably juniors or seniors at the time. So they already were accommodated to the whole area. So they'll invite me out, go hang out with them sometimes. And then I ended up meeting an interest group for members that we were all trying to be members of Cap Outside at the time. So there was an interest group, so that kind of met them, and then they were all at the dorms as well. So when we all started linking up together, that's what kind of made the transition better. I started hanging out with folks that look like me and experienced the same kind of struggles we faced before. So that definitely helped my sophomore year. And then I ended up picking up photography at the time, and that just ended up helping out as well. So.
All right. And so did you end up pledging your sophomore year?
No, I ended up pledging my senior year. It was right after I walked in 2018. I still had a semester left. So I ended up coming in, but then I took a semester off, which was weird. So it was a big extension. And then I finished in the spring of 2019. That's when I became initiated. So.
Okay. My dad is a Kappa.
Yeah.
As well. And I know that there's an Asian Kappa
Oh, yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
that
Y'all know very well.
I may know as well. Tell me more.
Mr. Jimmy Fan, class of 2014 Empress. Yes, sir. He ended up being initiated in the spring of 2018. So he helped initiate me into the fraternity. So it was great to see my boy Jimmy.
Is that a usual thing for a Black fraternity to have Asian members? Were there other Asian members or non-Black members?
Yes, in my specific chapter, in the Kappa Psi chapter, we do have Asian members. We have Latino members as well. But on a national or a worldwide scale, we have a great mixture of members from all walks of life. It's not uncommon. Really depends on what region or which province you're in. But usually, like in the West or in the Midwest, up north, you might have a mixture. But usually down south, you probably might have a predominantly Black presence. But for the most part, you do have a lot of mixed races within the fraternity.
Yeah. I remember a couple years ago, you emailed me about some kind of political activism that you were doing on campus. I think you were talking about media relations. What was that about?
So at Chico State, we have a place called the Cross Cultural Leadership Center. So basically, that's where all the students of color usually go hang out and have different programs and stuff like that. But we didn't have a Black space at that time. So I ended up bringing back the Black Student Union 2016. And this is when all the police brutality and stuff, all the police shootings were going on at the time. So 2015, 2016, around that area. And it was, I forgot. It's been so long. It's been so many. But there was some specific incidents where we ended up having a candlelight vigil. And so we hosted a candlelight vigil through the Black Student Union on campus, which was huge. It was a great turnout, about 300, 400, maybe 500 students, faculty, community members. But I knew at that point in time, with everything being so fresh, I knew the media was probably going to twist things around, especially being in a red county, in a sense. So I remember I emailed you just try to get advice on how to answer questions through the media, because I know it's going to be on TV and they're going to try to, do their little wordplay and stuff like that, get some sound bites. I'm like, nah, it's not going to fly. So I got some advice from you. But it ended up being a great event. We had a great turnout. That's when we really put the Black Student Union on the map. But that's what I was doing for at least 3 years. But it kind of died down towards the end. But I think with the creation of the Black Student Union with my team at the time, we were able to help other Black organizations on campus. Because we have the Men of Honor, which is an organization for males. It's kind of like an empowerment group. Just Unity Sisters was able to be established right after that. So I think it was the start of something greater for the Chico State campus.
All right. Well, we hear a lot about your activism. I've heard you've had some activism and some community give back through an endeavor that you've started. So can you tell us about Black Wal St Cafe?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So Black Wal St Cafe, I'll just give y'all from the beginning to where we are now. So about in 2006, I was at Pro Kids Golf Academy, which is in City Heights. And I had some friends that were way older than me. They're like, we're going to call you Black Wal St. So that's when I first got the name. And mind you, I didn't know anything about the Tulsa, Oklahoma, none of that at the time. So I was like, okay, that's kind of catchy name. And then I think it was 7th grade. It was in the math enrichment class. I forgot the teacher's name. Wow, that sucks. But she's a wonderful teacher. So we had an assignment where we were supposed to get a business plan going and create a menu or, get something going. And I ended up doing a restaurant, like a soul food restaurant. And it was funny because I thought about it the other day. I was like, everything that I had on that menu in 7th grade is pretty much what I'm doing now.
So you made a vision board in 7th grade,
right.
And it worked.
It worked. It was crazy.
Amazing.
And so we did that 7th grade. And then so I ended up coming to Chico. not my freshman year wasn't really cooking like that. So sophomore year, that's when I kind of started picking up on things, experimenting with the grill. And then that's when I got my solid 5 or so items on the menu. And then later on, probably I took like a year and a half off just because I wasn't feeling it anymore. And then around 2017, 2018, that's when I officially started like being serious with it. So I started cooking at parties and different events throughout Chico, California. And things just started picking up traction. So everybody knew about the cafe, which was, in a sense, comfort food for the students, you know, because there's out here in Chico, there's not really much ethnic food out here, or food that's kind of like, oh yeah, this is where we're going. It's pretty much the same kind of things out here, but just, you know, it's regular. So it was a great way for other students to, in a sense, feel like they're at home again. So I ended up being on the school newspaper, 2017. Then I took another break. And then about last year, I picked back up again. And that's when literally my community service started picking up as well. Because at this point, it was just pretty big. And pretty much everybody in the city kind of knew about Black Wal St Cafe. But at the time, I didn't have any of like my licenses or permits or anything like that. So this year, I ended up getting registered with the state of California as an LLC. Got all my permits in order, and ended up doing my regular place sales that I do on weekends, cooking out the house. But then I started doing something new, which was called Feed the Streets. As someone who's, in a sense, experienced some sort of struggle as a freshman, sophomore year in college by yourself, it's kind of hard asking for help. You know, when you need help, but you don't want to ask.